This will give you a good preview, basically what's possible with Xano and then the no-code API builder and of course the database. After that, Sean's gonna jump in and go through the agency onboarding, monitoring, and then a private marketplace. And then after that, Prakash is gonna jump in and talk specifics about the agency plan and basically how you could end up getting it for free. And also being able to see how you could also even become a referral partner and getting leads from us. So, and then at the very end, we're gonna open it up for Q&A. So just kind of jump in. So Xano was born out of an agency. So we ran a development agency for about 10 plus years. And we've taken, we've built so many different types of products, dynamic type projects, mobile apps, CRM systems, e-commerce sites, ERP systems, IoT ecosystems, just to name a few. So, and the biggest challenge for us as an agency has always been like the backend setup, right? And the management of our customer projects. So at the end of the day, as an agency, you don't want to get mired in the tech details and that don't really add much business value. So during our journey, we realized that there was a lot of similarities when it came to client projects, right? And it's features that were basically used on different projects, again, with having just different types of context. So we started writing our reusable functions to develop quickly. And then we created our own framework, right? It wasn't called Xano back then. And then a few years ago, we discovered, that this internal product, not only helping us as an agency, but other developers and dev shops out there. So we decided to productize it, right? So kind of moving forward. And for those of you who are here new to Xano, Xano is basically, it will get you a scalable server, a flexible database, patent pending no-code API builder that could transform, filter, integrate data from anywhere, right? So a little bit about Xano is also that Xano sets up, hosts, manages your entire backend and its infrastructure, including your database, the hosting, and all the orchestration that goes into it, right? Xano also creates, manages, hosts, and auto documents all your API endpoints, your CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete. And you can do all that data manipulation, everything here with no code. So at the end of the day, we want to basically remove all the behind the scenes work for you so that you could concentrate at the end what really matters most, which is your target audience, right? So trying to get into this, a little bit about transparency here at Xano. We're very transparent. We like to open up the hood, show you what's underneath the hood, right? So part of that, every single instance within Xano is Docker containerized, right? Containerization brings the stability and it makes making sure that our server environment is always consistent. Also, Xano utilizes Kubernetes. It's the industry standard for auto scaling based on traffic and resource needs, and it automates our deployments and updates. It also manages our Docker release cycles while constantly running health checks, right? Very important. Also here at Xano, every single instance utilizes a Postgres database. Basically, it's the most flexible open source database in the world, right? But it provides the flexibility of a relational database, and you can also do your big data needs of a NoSQL setup. As you can see here, it's also been battle tested for 3 decades now, and it's used by some of the most notable companies in the world. Also here at Xano, we utilize the Google Cloud Platform, the GCP, as our cloud hosting provider. 2 main reasons for that. Number one, because they have one of the highest level of security built in. And then also, which we get to utilize, right? We get to use that security for us, and of course, pass that off to all the Xano users. So we get to all piggyback off of Google's infrastructure. And of course, they have one of the largest networks in the world, over 200 plus countries. Also here at Xano, as you can see, we take security very seriously. And it's not just through our technical setup, but it's also through our company practices. So you can see Xano is ISO 27001 certified. It's the international standard for cybersecurity, ISMS, meaning Information Security Management Systems. We're also ISO 9001 certified, QMS for QMS, Quality Management System. So it's for internal frameworks. And of course, just last year, just in Q4 of last year, we got our Hipaa compliance. So if you're going to be building anything medical grade type systems, we could definitely help you on that front. And of course, we are also constantly running our PCI compliance network scans, always making sure that our system is always secure and airtight. Now that I give this preface on about Xano and about a little bit of our history, I'm going to pass the baton to Michael, where he's going to go ahead and start his demonstration. So let me see here.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead and stop sharing. And I will go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Awesome, guys. So I'm going to run through a quick 15-minute demo here. And on my screen here, you're seeing Xano. And if you haven't yet seen Xano, the first thing you go through is just a very quick getting started wizard to set up your workspace, which is just the virtual container for whatever project you're working on. So for this demo, we're going to do a reviews app where we're going to actually integrate with Google's Open AI API to automatically generate reviews for restaurants. So if you haven't seen that before, I just have this open on this tab here. It's beta.openai.com, and it's really cool. We'll go through that in this demo. So I'll name my workspace. I'll hit continue. I'm going to start from scratch today. Just know we also let people import their bases from Airtable, and we also have some starter templates if you want to get started even quicker. So I'm going to hit start from scratch. The next step of the wizard is just our database and API. So right away, we can name some of the tables that are going to be in our backend. So we can always add this later, but I'll have a user table and then also a table for reviews. It'll be pretty simple setup today. And then also what we're saying right here with your API, we're just auto-generating all your basic CRUD API endpoint operations. And of course, we can create new API endpoints in Xano, which we'll do today, but those are a nice baseline to start with. We also ask what features will your app support. So I mentioned those starter templates. That's one component of our marketplace. We also have pre-built extensions where we've integrated with some popular third-party API services. With Xano, you can integrate with any third-party API. We'll show an example of that today, but just know there's stuff already configured in the marketplace for you, like sending emails with either SendGrid or Mailgun, Twilio with SMS, etc. So I'm just going to skip this for now. Last step of the wizard, just how our users will log in. So Xano will set up authentication automatically using users' email addresses and JWE tokens. On the screen here, you can also see all these different OAuth providers. Once again, those are part of the marketplace. So just know that's all there. I'm just going to hit finish, and that'll complete that getting started wizard. We land on the dashboard, which just has some educational content, as well as information on our database, API request history. But for this demo, I'm going to jump to the database. We'll set up those tables that I named during the wizard, and then we'll jump to the API so we can see how that interacts with the database and actually build a custom endpoint today. So if I jump to the database here on the right side, we can see both of my tables that were created here. So first, let me jump into the user table. You can see it's already populated a name, email, and password. So I'll go ahead and I'll add a couple users in here. I might add Jack and just give him some dummy data here to populate. And then I'll go ahead and I'll add myself. So we'll just have a couple different users here. And I'll just say something like password 123. So those will just be our very first users. And then we only have one other table today, and that's our reviews table. So in the reviews table, you can see there's just an ID number for what record it is and the timestamp for when the record is created. So I can easily add new columns or schema here just by hitting this plus button in Xano. And we have all these different data or field types here. So we tell you what the first four most common are, but then obviously there's some more advanced stuff, like for example, geography, storage for images, videos, attachments, etc., even raw JSON. But we're going to keep it high level for now. I'm going to do text field, and we'll call this restaurant because remember we're reviewing restaurants here in this demo. And then we'll have a text field for the review. Go ahead and hit save. And then we'll do one more column here, and this will be a table reference to my user. So what this is doing is it's creating a relationship saying that each one of my, or saying a user in my backend here is going to be creating a restaurant review in this table. So that just creates that restaurant. We could very easily put in some data here. So I could say something like Javier's and great Mexican food. And I could easily go ahead and make that relationship to Jack. But what we want to actually do for this demo is we actually want the API to be generating this information and populating this reviews table. So I'm going to go ahead now and jump to the API, and we'll see how to do that. So when I jump to the API, you can see we organize API endpoints into groups, and I can actually click on this group here. And there's already some API endpoints in here. So remember, during the wizard, we generated those basic CRUD API endpoint operations. You can see that for both of my tables, as well as authentication, because we set that up. So real quick, I just want to quickly look at one of these endpoints. We can click into these. And what we have here is called a no-code API builder. And I just want to touch on the anatomy of it real quick. First is input. So any information or query parameters needed to be specified for your API endpoint. Two is the function stack. And this is the actual inner workings of your API endpoint. This is where you can build your business logic, get complex and exact with the data as you may need to be. And lastly is just the response, so something optional you can get back. Just a quick point on the function stack. It's called a function stack because you can put different functions in here and they'll be performed in a linear fashion. So for example, there's one function in here. It's querying all records from my user table, and it's returning it as, in orange here, this variable called user. And that's what we're returning in the response. But those variables are important, and you'll see why in a second, because we can actually pass data from function to function in order to either manipulate it, transform it, add it to a database, etc. So let's go ahead and go back now. And now I actually going to create a custom endpoint, as I talked about. It's going to be our review generator, where we're actually working with that Open AI API from Google. So I'm going to go to the top right here and add new API endpoint. We're going to hit start from scratch, and I'll just call this review generator. And in this case, it will be a post because we're going to be adding to our database in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and you can see I have just a blank slate here. First thing, if we actually go to this OpenAI API, they have some great examples. And one of them is actually a restaurant review creator. So when I select this, you can see it gives me some information, also this curl command. So we actually want to be able to call this API endpoint from Xano. So if I jump back here, and in my function stack, I just go to add a new function. Well, you can see we have all these different categories of different functions for different pieces of logic. The first thing I'm going to do is do an external API request. And when I open this up, you can see there are different settings that we can manually define for an API call. However, we also see this import curl command. What's really nice is a lot of times working with third-party APIs, they'll give you a curl command in their documentation. And luckily for this OpenAI, we have that curl command. So I can actually just copy this very easily here, come back to Xano and hit import curl and just paste in that curl command. And when I hit import, what that does is it actually explodes out this entire API call with the URL, the method, all the settings in headers, etc. Now you'll notice in the headers, it's asking for my open API key. There's a little placeholder there. So let me go ahead and save this, and I'll just quickly jump back here, and I'll just go ahead and view API keys in my settings here in OpenAI, copy this, and then back to Xano. So one thing that we recommend in Xano is if you have an API key from a third-party service, you can store it in something called environment variables. So that way, if you're calling that same API in different places in your workspace, you can easily grab that API key. So if I go to my settings here, and right here in environment variables, I just hit manage. I can add a new environment variable, and I'll just call this one API key and paste it in there and hit save. Now let's jump back to that API endpoint real quick. So when I open back up this external API call to OpenAI, and I come down to my authorization here where it's requiring that API key. So what I can do is I can actually just delete this placeholder. And in programming, there's something called sprintf, which allows you to do variable text substitution. And I can do something exactly like that in Xano. So I'm going to put this character %s where I actually want that key. And then right under here in the value, you'll see this add filter option. So in Xano, everywhere in your in different functions, you'll have access to these filters. And this is basically data transformation on the fly. So if I click add filter, you can see there's tons of options here, but I'll just type in sprintf here. And you can see it formats text with variable substitution. So I'll select that filter. I'll add an argument here, and that's just for that character %s. And I can just select my environment variable API key and hit update and save. So now real quick, when I run this, we should see a successful response back. And we do, and it's the same example from the example page on Google's OpenAI that we looked at, this Blue Wharf restaurant. But now we want to actually start to make this call dynamic, right? So if we start to think about this review generator, we might start to think about the inputs that our user on the front end might actually be inputting to create these reviews. So first, we might actually need something like a restaurant name, we'll say. And then we'll have a text field, maybe some notes about the restaurant. And then we might even take in, say, the user's email, so we know who's writing the review, right? So now if I go back into this API call, well, since we are basically exploded out this API call, we have access to all these parameters, most notably the prompt, which is actually generating this review. So if I actually select on the value here and I open this up, well, you can see here that OpenAI API is taking in the name of the restaurant and then some notes on it to generate the actual review. So just as I did with that API key, I can do %s on the name and then also on the notes. So we can do multiple variable substitutions here with that sprintf. I'll just save this. Once again, I'll add a filter and just type in sprintf. And now I just need to add 2 arguments, one for my restaurant name and one for the notes. So I'll go ahead and select those inputs and I'll hit update and save. So now when I go to run this, I can actually use these inputs. So I'll say restaurant name, we'll say Firestone, and some notes will be tender tri-tip, rich barbecue sauce, and buzzing patio vibes. Okay, so those will be my notes about this restaurant name Firestone. We'll ignore the email for now. We'll come back to that. I just want to show you how now all of a sudden this API call becomes dynamic. So if we go and look at this review here, it says, if you're looking for a delicious barbecue meal in a fun and lively atmosphere, Firestone is the place for you. The tri-tip is cooked to perfection and goes great with house barbecue sauce. And if the weather is nice, be sure to enjoy the meal on the patio. So as you can see, that OpenAI is pretty cool. It just took a few notes and generated an entire restaurant review. And I got to say, it's pretty accurate. So awesome. But what we want to actually do is we want to be able to add this review to our Xano database table, right? We want to be able to populate that. So you'll notice I talked about these variables earlier. So each function outputs a variable, and we're returning that API1 right now. So that entire variable is all of this response right here. However, I just want one piece of information from it, just this text. So I'm going to copy the result right here, and you'll see why in a second. I'm going to add a new item to the function stack, and that's going to be in database requests, and it's going to be add a record because we want to add this information to our reviews table. So I'll select add record to reviews. And when this function opens, you can see we can start to easily map the information that we want to add to our database table. So restaurant name, we can easily get that from the input. And now review, you can see when I hit the dropdown, well, we see that API1 variable, but remember, there's all that information in there. There's the requests, the headers, etc. But what I can do now, I can hit this subpath option here. And remember how I copied that result? Well, if I paste that in and hit define here, I can start to visually traverse through all that data to get to exactly where I want. So I actually want this text field here. And when I select that, Xano automatically creates the dot notation to create the path to actually grab that piece of data for me. Okay. And so the last piece we need is actually this user ID. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. So if I just save this, we know we're taking in the user's email address, but how do we get the actual user's ID? Well, I'm going to add another function to the function stack. It's going to be a get record from the user. So when we look at this, we can see we can look up a user record based on a field name. We can see right now the field name is ID, but if I hit this dropdown, we see all the different fields in my user table. So I can look up a user by any of these. So I'm actually going to select the user email field, and then the field value will just be that of my input. And now you can see in the output here, we have access to all the fields in this return variable for my user. So I'll hit save. And remember how I talked about function stacks perform in a linear fashion. So order of operations matters. So in order to actually access that user information in this add record here, we need the get record from user to be before that. So when I open up this add record now, user ID, I can come down here, select my user variable, and just right on the line here, actually write in dot notation for the ID. So I'll go ahead and save this. Now let's go ahead and run this. I'll change the response to this new record we're creating, reviews. And if I go ahead and run this now, let me go ahead and actually add in the email I put in for the user, Michael. And when I run this, we'll see what we'll get back is a brand new record. We have the restaurant name, the full review, and even that user ID. And let's go just quickly check the database here. Look at the reviews, and here is all that information just automatically populated there. Great, so that wraps it for that review. Once again, we use Google's OpenAI API platform to automatically generate a restaurant review off some few notes. And I'm now going to pass it to Sean, our co-CEO, to talk about the agency plans. So go ahead and stop sharing here.
Awesome. All righty, I'm going to share here. Okay, so awesome demo, Michael. I'm going to talk about three things, and this is now. So now that you guys have seen a great demo of what you can do with Xano, let's take a step back and actually talk about how our agency package can make your life easier. So if you're an agency, first I just want to talk about onboarding. So onboarding a new client is annoyingly complex, right? Let's just walk through a couple of issues that you might run into. First, let's say that you want your client to get a certain package with several different options. Let's say 10 workspaces, 100 gigabytes of database storage, a certain level of support. All these different permutations, you need to basically tell your client to do it. Normally it's over the phone or on an email. And the reason why you're telling them to do it is because at the end of the day, they need to enter in their credit card, and you don't want to use your credit card and then invoice them later. You just want everything to be smooth, but there's just a lot of jumping through hoops to get a basic sign up working. Another thing with onboarding is because you're an agency, normally you have some type of partner agreement with Xano, but which means that you get a certain commission with the more clients that you bring on. But whenever you bring on a client, you need to use an affiliate code, right? A certain link. So you can imagine that there's going to be times when the client forgets to use the link, just comes in through the front door, and then you don't get your affiliate credit, which is then this awkward conversation of, hey, could you actually go back and enter it? So just trying to avoid that. So let me just log in real quick, and then I'll just walk you guys through how we make onboarding very nice. Okay, so I'm logging into my account. Clearly I have a lot of instances on the left, but I also have one agency called Metric Systems. So I'm going to go into there, and you can see up here the button, invite a new client. So here, you can see you just have to enter in, there's 2 mandatory fields. We'll say Prakash, and I'll just send it to my own email. And then, hey, buddy, sign up. So just entering in the contact information is step 1. Step 2, we have this really good checkout page. First, you can pick your plan and see, okay, which plan do we care about? When you're talking to new customers, they're going to tell you how much like traffic they have. If they're small time, you probably want to do launch. But if they're saying, oh, we need 1,000 requests per second at all times, well, then maybe you're going to want to jump up to like scale 4x, right? So that's going to be, you guys will be talking to the client, but all these different packages, you can figure out what you want. You then can do additional upgrades. If someone says, hey, I'm doing a photo site and we do 100 gigabytes per day. Okay, well, then you're probably going to want to do a massive amount of storage, right? I don't need to do that right now, but you can see that there's a whole bunch of different options here. Maybe you're talking to a client and they're like, well, we have 100 employees and they all need access to it. Okay, no problem. So we'll give them 100 team members. Okay, so then those are the additional upgrades. You can then also choose the region. We'll just do US for now. Also, do they care about support? Some of them don't. Maybe they just have you do what you're doing. So then you can just leave it as basic, but if they want extra support, and the reason why this is also important is that the higher the price point, technically that's the more money for you guys because you're actually getting a percentage credit on that. That doesn't mean you need to upsell them on everything, but definitely at least bring it up to find out if they want it. So let's say they want silver. And then last but not least, we have Hipaa Compliance if perhaps they're doing medical records, something like that. Okay, so then we send an invitation, right? I'm just going to open up my email real quick, just so you can see why this is good. Just one sec. All right, I got my invitation. Let me bring this over here. Okay, so you can see Metric Systems has invited you to join Xano. It shows the personal message. Then we're going to click here to accept this invitation. Okay, so this is what's awesome. So you can see here already it has everything pre-selected, right? So you don't have to, as long as they don't do anything, right? Everyone's an expert at not doing anything, right? As long as they just fill out the password and a couple of questions, it means they're going to be in the exact state that you want them, right? So no, you're not going to run into issues where they actually did 50 gigabytes instead of 5,000 gigabytes, and then you have to go fix it later. It's exactly in the state you want, which is super useful. That was a big pain point when we used to be a development agency. If maybe they made a mistake, right? If that happens sometimes, maybe you misheard them. They still have the option to change something if they want, but it's not needed. And also anytime you are sending out these invites, they get an automatic 10%. So already going through you is cheaper than going through the front door. I'm not going to actually sign up here but this is technically the end of the onboarding, right? Pretty straightforward, easy to pick the configuration that they need to get, a nice email, and then all they have to do is basically enter a password and just spot check this if this makes sense. And everybody's signed up, they get their 10% discount, and you get your referral credit as well. That's not shown anywhere. That's happening behind the scenes, and it's 100% linked up. Okay, so that's onboarding. The next thing is monitoring, right? So beforehand, I set up just 3 different agencies, or sorry, I onboarded 3 different agency clients, just so you could see what it starts to look like as you bring on more Xano clients. So the most important thing here is that you have, if basically you want to do passive monitoring, like every once in a while, you're going to do a spot check, just make sure everything is adding up appropriately. So over here, first you can see the CPU usage in the last 24 hours. If it's flatlined, basically it's not being used, probably nothing to worry about, right? If you all of a sudden it's at 100%, that may be something of a concern. If it only touches it here and there, probably fine. If it's pegged at 100, you immediately know, okay, something might be going wrong. Maybe they outgrew, maybe they outgrew their current instance and they need to upgrade. So that would be an indicator that you would then want to talk to them. You can then upgrade for them. Also over here, we have stats. So you can see how many workspaces, how many database tables, how many records. And that's really just to like spot check, like, does this make sense? Like if yesterday you were at 1 record and today you're at, like, look down here. Let's say yesterday you were at 1 record, today you're at 300,000. Okay, well, something clearly happened. And you're like, oh, okay, well, look at this graph. All right, well, that looks like something was happening for a bit. Behind the scenes, I was doing a big import with our CSV import. And this just shows what it was actually doing while it was crunching through and doing all that stuff. But the nice thing about this is I can quickly see all this stuff without having to do anything. I don't have to drill into it. So if I have 1 customer, or if I have 10 or 100, all you do is just use your mouse wheel and scroll up and down. You don't have to go into one to get more information. It's all there on 1 page, which is super useful. We also color code the storage. Like right now, our storage is pretty low. Like we're only using 3% of the 3 gigs for the database here. But you can see that there's this subtle blue here. As this starts growing, the color will change. It goes from, it'll turn into an orangey yellow when it's getting past 50%. And when it's around 80% and above, will turn red. So that's definitely something to pay attention to, right? Just as you're familiar with the street lights when you're driving, it's the same type of thing here. Anything red, probably something to look into. That doesn't mean that it's going to fall apart right then, but if like things keep continuing, eventually it will, because it's only a finite amount of space. And remember, anything that seems off, potentially there's room for an upsell, right? You could then add more database storage. Last but not least, okay, is the private marketplace. And this is incredibly powerful. So what is the private marketplace? So the private marketplace allows you to pick and choose the work you've done in different Xano instances, package that up, and then redeploy those where you want on other instances. So what I'm going to do here is, Michael did a super awesome demo. I'm going to go in, package that up myself. So I'm going to go into the metric systems instance. I'm going to package that up and then install it on one of my clients. So I believe he did the reviews app. That's right. And we've got a couple reviews here. Okay, that looks right. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to expand the private marketplace, click on metric systems, and I'm going to create a snippet, right? So another thing to notice here is, okay, well, Michael did a whole bunch of stuff. How easy it is to package things up? Like that could be very intimidating, but our snippet workflow is very fine-tuned and streamlined. So here I'm going to say reviews snippet. Okay. I'm then going to go down here. So I just typed in a name. I'm then going to go to included content. Okay. So I remember what Michael was doing, and it looks like you can see all these different CRUD endpoints, but all we really cared about is that review generator. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, update. So down here, notice, well, first of all, it's saying that the review generator is there. But notice that the database tables also got included. So while you picked the query that you were interested in, and you can do more than one. In this example, we're just doing one because he only did one. But you can definitely do more than one. But notice the database tables there. So as you add things, it scans through those endpoints and functions that you use, and anything it touches, which obviously is needed, automatically gets included for you, right? So you don't have to worry about, oh, I included this, but I forgot that. It just automatically works. Another super cool thing here is that notice it says import 0 of 2 records. So it's saying, okay, well, you actually have 2 records in there. Do you actually want to include, package that data up as well? So it's not just the no code engine that you're packaging up. You can actually package up the data, which is super useful if you want to like seed the experience with initial data, right? You could have the best system in the world, but if there's no way to demo it because there's no data, right, it's not quite as interesting. So here, I'm going to click on this. I'm just going to include 2 reviews. Also down here, last, it also noticed that I needed an API key. It included that. We probably don't want to use the same API key for everyone. So I'm just going to click that and 0 it out. And that's it. I'm going to create this snippet. And I am halfway home. All right, so I'm now going to back out all the way out. I'm going to then go back into my agency dashboard. I'm going to install it on this chat AI instance. So I'm now going to drill into that. I'm going to go into this workspace, and now I'm going to install it. So I'm going to go back to my private marketplace. So notice there's 2 tabs here. There's stuff that was created within the instance, like it was created within our agency instance, not this one. And then there's also stuff that was published within where your agency package. So we want to click over here. And you can see here, well, I definitely have a couple here. And I believe I did review snippet. I'm going to click on that. Yes, that looks right, because remember, it has 2 records in there. I'm then going to click get, right? So this is now just the same way you, if you ever get a movie or game on iTunes, like first you need to purchase it. Here we're actually doing that, but it's for free. Then we're going to install it, right? So also it's important to remember that they can't do this on their own. Like you have, because you have an agency account, you have these superpowers where you have basically like this cloud drive of all these packages where you can pick and choose where you want to do stuff. So, okay, so everything got installed. It's even saying that, hey, there may be something to do. So what would that be? API key, right? I don't need to populate that now, but the last thing I just want to show you guys is that if I go into the reviews, you'll see those 2 entries. Looks like so these are reference to those other users. I didn't include that. I can just 0 those out. And that's it, right? That's pretty easy. And I know that demo that Michael did was quick, and like, how does that compare to like a project that takes a month to do, right? Really, the only difference is that you just have a whole bunch more endpoints, but we've got really good select all support. So when you're creating that snippet, you just do a couple select all clicks, package it up, and you're ready to put that wherever you want. And that's it. Let me pass this off to Prakash. We got to unmute or give Prakash powers to mute. Okay. How do I do that? Sorry about that.
Okay, great. Yep, I think we're good now. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of our current users and customers, and we really appreciate you being here. It sounds like everyone's talking about merch in the chat, which is awesome. So thank you all for sticking around till kind of the end. You know, Sean demonstrated a lot of cool things that you could do with our agency package. And just to take a step back, it's amazing to see the ability to not only manage your clients, but give them a seamless way to onboard, right? Like you don't have to go back and forth anymore to manage them, and then to create these snippets, right? These things in your private agency marketplace that will accelerate your client development. So I want to talk and close with a little bit around our pricing and different features. So first of all, a lot of you may be familiar with our current pricing. Starting from the left, we have shared resources where you can build your MVP for free, and then it goes all the way up in terms of self-serve to scale. So it's like when you're starting with your MVP, you go up to scale, and you can keep ratcheting up scale depending on your usage. And as Jack mentioned in the beginning, we're built for scale. So you can scale to no limits. The agency package itself, right, comes with a scale 1x. So you already have dedicated resources, single tenant, and we add an additional workspaces. So you get 12 workspaces to basically prototype in. So this is separate from what Sean showed you, how you could onboard different client instances. This is completely on your own. When you just want to prototype and build internally, we give you lots of workspaces to do that. We also include the marketplace and lots of exciting features to where you can really look at that dashboard and see if there is anything going on. So agency, as you can see enumerated here, starts with that scale and then covers everything that I just mentioned in terms of features. Additionally, one of the things that was mentioned by both Sean and Jack is kind of our referral network. So a lot of people don't realize this, but Zano, the Zano team, we only focus on Zano, the product, right? We don't actually build anything, but we get requests probably daily around partners and people that need help, right? They either need their entire app built, they need portions of the app built. And so we basically have this referral network. And when you sign up for an agency package, you all automatically become part of this network. And what happens is we reach out to you directly, we get a sense of what your specialties are, and then we round robin pass referrals directly to you. So not only are you building with Zano, but you're getting free referrals, and we're passing it along to the people that know the platform and use it every day to build for their clients. Furthermore, on top of this, we wanted to create an incentive to make it easy for you to build for free. So the initial clients that you onboard, right, their initial revenue, 100% of it will go to paying for the cost of the agency. And afterwards, after your cost is taken care of and you're not paying anything for Zano, you get 20% commission on any money that you bring in, whether that be a support package, a compliance package, or any of the packages that we have, Build, Launch, Scale, or Scale Plus. So we really wanted to make it easy not only to give you money through our referral network, but to make the cost as low or minimal or zero as possible as you start building with Zano. So as of today, everyone that is attending this webinar actually gets an additional 20% off the agency package if you use this link. So that's go.zano.com/NCD agency. If you go there, you can not only learn more about what our agency package has to offer, but you'll also get that 20% off automatically if you choose to sign up. Furthermore, I just wanted to say that we're definitely here to help. If you're new to Zano and you just want a little bit more information before you sign up in general, definitely check out our orientation and office hours at this link. We have lots of YouTube tutorials. Michael is a superstar. He has created a lot of great content in terms of how to use the product, and that's our YouTube channel link. And then finally, we're on Twitter, and we're pretty active on Twitter at No Code Backend. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this presentation and open it up to any questions that you might have.
Yeah, and since there's so many people on the call, if you have any questions, I think it would be best just to throw them in the chat, and then the Xano team can answer them as they come in. I think that'll work best. Is there someone, Prakash, are you going to answer the questions, or is that okay to keep your mic on?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer the questions. If there's like something that's more technical that I need to pass along to, so I can go ahead and do that.
I see one here. Will there be a Discord community in the future?
Yeah, we've been going back and forth on the Discord community. We have like a 50-50 split, actually more like 60-40. 60% of people hate Discord and 40% of people do not. So we currently have a Slack community that we're currently testing. And that Slack community actually includes a co-working room where the community can come online and build with each other. I think in the future, we may consider Discord if it's the right tool for us. But right now it's starting with Slack, and we'll consider Discord in the future.
Looks like there's another question there. Can you see that?
Looks like I didn't get the 100% revenue sharing part. Could you please explain again? Yeah, so for the revenue sharing piece of it, what we want to say is that the initial customers, so let's say you get the agency package, and to make it simple, I'll just call it $300 a month, right? So if you get that 20% you pay yearly, you actually pay less than that, but let's just call it $300 a month. That's how much you pay for Xano's agency plan. So let's say you bring on a customer that is a Xano customer using that onboarding flow that Sean showed, and you bring them on a scale package, which is at $199 a month if they pay yearly. That entire 100% of that $199 will go as a credit to your account until your agency plan is completely paid for. So let's say they sign up for scale, Hipaa compliance, and a couple support packages. In theory, with one customer, you could have it pay 100% for your agency. After your agency plan is paid for, all of the revenue that you bring into Xano, we're going to give you 20% of it back, right? So it's going to be a 20% commission that we pay to you after your instance is paid for. So that's the dynamics of that agency plan. And at any time, you can contact us directly on support, and we're happy to talk more about that. All right, so what is next? With the snippets, would it be possible to package up an entire app? So snippets are actually a massive innovation that don't get talked about enough. Like you've probably seen CodePen and all of these shareable JavaScript snippets. I think we are the first ever to have a shareable backend. And you can have that be a single API endpoint, or as was being asked by Suki, you can have an entire backend, right? That includes the database, the API endpoints. So you can have that and have that ready to go with any client that you bring on board. So it's really, really cool and quite an innovation that we worked hard on. Let's see, interested in a tutorial in a doctor-patient workflow. The doctor has read access to several client records. Yeah, okay. So Eddie asks a question just around a tutorial around how you kind of set up a patient like Hipaa compliant type application. We're constantly doing tutorials, and actually one of the things that's on my docket is just best practices around database setup. And so I think one of the things we'll do, Eddie, is in one of them we'll cover kind of like the Hipaa compliant build with roles and permissions, role-based access controls, and things of that nature. So I would subscribe to our YouTube channel and look out for that because we have a lot of tutorials coming. What else did I miss? Sorry, I'm scrolling. Function. Let's see. I'm new to this. Why a potential customer would want to sign up with an agency rather than directly with Xano? Yeah, so that's a great question. You can sign up directly with Xano, certainly as a customer of an agency, but you lose the ability to have your account managed. So we found when we were developing in the agency, it's the management component and having someone else really that has these value add services that can keep an eye on your workspace, that can develop and has permissions to basically move your app further. So if you're more like self-serve and you want to build yourself and keep your instance completely separate from the agency, well, that's completely fine. And I think that there is a use case for that. But I think if we use the 80-20 rule, 80% of people that hire the agency would rather have the agency involved in their build process. And there's also ways that's coming down the line where you as an agency can provide discounts to the customers for coming in through that agency. So we're constantly, I think another thing that we're doing and innovating on is we want to constantly make the agency package better, whether it be through discounts that you can offer your clients, user experience that you can just make the onboarding and their experience with Xano and you seamless, or when it comes to basically that quick snippet onboarding and getting their project done faster. All right. Michael's president, he was able to change. Is this considered secure that the admin of the backend can change passwords and read things? So in terms of passwords, the agency actually cannot change passwords on the user table. So even though they have access to manage a specific client, they can't go in there and change the passwords. Like they can certainly remove users if they're given that full grain access. And right now they have control over the entire agency, but we're still building in controls where the client of an agency can actually say, you know what, now that I have launched my product, I just want the agency to have reader monitoring access. So that's something that's going to come very shortly. So just to be clear, the agency can't go and read all the passwords. That's completely hashed. Even you yourself as an administrator can't do it because it's all encrypted. You can certainly delete the user, but that it kind of becomes like a trust between the agency and the person and the client that you're bringing on board. Sure. What level of access an onboarded client would have? Do they access tables, endpoints, function stacks, etc.? Yes, as of right now, they have complete access to their instance and they can do everything in it. We have heard, because before we built this agency, we actually talked to a lot of agencies to make sure that we are building it in the right way. In the future, we will provide some controls to basically not let the users shoot themselves in the foot, right? Because sometimes they don't necessarily, they can mess things up. So we actually have built it in such a way that in the future rollouts or upgrades that we're adding to the agency, that they'll have a read-only view up until the point you're ready to deploy it for them. So it's kind of a delicate balance because it's, technically they're paying you, the agency, and they should have all the control in the world. But if you establish that relationship, then you can kind of give them read-only until deployment. And both parties have to have mutual acceptance in order to have that complete control that we were talking about. It would be nice to get a tutorial how leads in other ways than recommendations from you. Yeah, so I would just say in general, no-code agencies is kind of nascent. I think no-code in general, obviously the footprint is a lot larger than it was even a year ago, thanks to no-code devs actually, and people like no-code devs for just spreading the word. For agencies specifically, I think you can level yourself up by just saying, look, we don't have to build in the traditional ways anymore. We don't have to try to pay these really expensive engineers or find engineers. As you know, there's a shortage of engineering talent, which is why so many people are turning to these no-code tools. So if you can position yourself as such to say, listen, we can build faster, cheaper, I think that there's still going to be margin for you, recurring commission for you, and a way that you can compel clients to onboard with you rather than going the traditional route. Because with as good as these no-code tools are today, there's no way you're not going to be competitive in terms of getting an MVP out the door faster than traditional hand rolling and then scaling it from there. I know you are platform agnostic, but do you have a front end tool preference? Khan, that's a tough question. No, we are front end agnostic, and really what I tell people is front end. It's any tool in general. It's very it's a very subjective thing. I think someone might have a great experience and relationship using a tool like Bubble, just in terms of being able to surmount their learning curve and it's great for them. But as you know, Bubble only does the web applications. Yes, I know they have the wrapper for mobile. So then they might have to go to another service for launching and deploying a native mobile app, for example. So when it comes to front ends, I always tell people when you are making your considerations on the front end, I would try 2 or 3 different tools, build a simple list view, click on an item in that list, see a single item view, and then delete it, right? Like, so build basically that thing, and whatever you have the best experience in doing that with, that's probably where you should, the front end tool that you should stick with. Just trying to go through the chat logs. Anything else that I missed, Art, that you're seeing, or anyone else?
I think you got most of them. And just with timing, I think it's probably a good place to wrap up. You can maybe, I think you have already, but just, reinforce the best way to get in touch with you guys. If there's any additional questions, there you go.
Yep. Yeah, so I would look at these links. I would say the very top one is if you want to like communicate with us directly. We do multiple office hours multiple times a week, like live, and our team is there, and orientation. If you want to just learn about the things you can do with Xano, check out the tutorials, communicate with us directly, go to Twitter. And again, if you're interested in signing up for that agency package, here is the link. This is a limited time offer. And yeah, we're just thankful that you're all here. We're really excited to be working with you. And Art and the no-code devs, thank you so much for the opportunity as always.
Yeah, thanks guys for the presentation. It was great. I didn't say it in the beginning, but we did record this session. So we'll clean it up just a tad and we'll email it out to everyone who registered within 48 hours. So thank you, everyone. Thank you guys. Thank you, Xano team.
Sure. Thank you.
See you guys.
All right, see you later.